Mm, Hi everyone. In this video lecture, I would like to explain something about the topic named modular programming or modular programming approach. We all are familiar with the term module. We know that our subject, not only our subject, all subjects in all universities are divided into several modules. So we know the term, we have heard about the term module before. So what's the need of this module or dividing this syllabus into modules? Many of you know that the importance of dividing the entire syllabus into different modules. It becomes easier for the students to learn, to organize their studies. It also becomes easier for the teachers to handle the subject. It also becomes easier for the university to grade the students based on how much they have learned from different concepts which are included in different modules. So altogether, basically dividing an entire thing into different modules is really helpful. Just think what happens if we are not dividing, if the university is not dividing the entire syllabus into different modules. Suppose if we have only one module, what will happen? From the viewpoint of the students will have to study each and every topic of that module, because students don't know which are the important topics of each that module. If there were only one module, students will not be able to identify which are the important topics in that module. Since it is divided into different modules, like in our current scenario, students can identify, or the teachers can tell the students which all topics are the important topics in each module, so that the students can focus on those topics in specific. So that's the first point that we have to remember, that is dividing something into modules. It is actually a helping mentality. It's actually to help us to organize several things. Okay, now we will see the definition of this modular program. So a modular programming is defined as it's a process of subdividing a computer program into separate subprograms. It's self-explanatory from this sentence itself. I don't think I believe there's no need for any further explanation on this. Simple sentence, that is, we are dividing the entire program into different subprograms. That is what modular programming means. So if you are writing a program, instead of writing every lines of code in a single main function, in the case of C programming language, we are going to split that entire program into different modules, or we are going to solve a problem as a combination of different modules or subparts. Each of that subprogram is known as a module. So you have to study this definition, that is, modular programming is nothing but it is a process of subdividing a computer program into separate subprograms, and each of these subprograms are known as modules, and a module is a separate software component. We will see what's the meaning of this sentence in the upcoming slides. Okay, for the time being, to understand that when we divide, or modular programming means we are dividing the entire program into different subprograms, and each of these subprograms are known as modules. And why we are saying that a module is a separate software component, that we will see in the upcoming slides. Okay, so why, or what's the need of this modular programming? So before I explain this slide, just think of a real world scenario. Like, say one of your friend owns a hotel, say his name be Rahul. So if our friend named Rahul owns a hotel, and just think of the scenario that there is only one employee in that hotel, that is, he itself is the owner as well as the employee of that hotel. So we all know what all things happen in a hotel. There will be so many customers like us who go for to have food in hotels, right? We'll give orders. The delivery boy will go to the kitchen and will place the order. The cook will cook the food and the delivery boy will deliver us the food. We'll pay the bill, we'll get the balance, and we'll happily return back to home, right? So what happens if there are no employees? That is, there is only one employee. The owner itself is employee of the hotel. What happens in that situation? This owner, whose name is Rahul, in this example, he have to go to each and every customer, have to take the order, go back to kitchen, have to cook the food. Say some of you have ordered masala dosha, some of you have ordered ghee roast, some of you have ordered tea, some of you have ordered biryani. Since there is only one employee, that's the owner itself, he itself have to perform or have to prepare all these different orders, isn't it? And after cooking this, he itself have to come back with this food and deliver it to all these customers. He itself have to collect the bill. He still have to go to market and purchase the raw materials for cooking all these things. So think how what will the burden of that person, of our friend Rahul in this example? It will be a huge burden on him, right? So instead of that, what happens if you're dividing this entire work into different categories, like that is done in the real world scenario? At present it is done like that, right? We know that we have a kitchen in a hotel. There's so many cooks in that hotel. Okay, so there's a separate unit of delivery boys, separate unit for billing or account session, separate unit for purchasing the raw materials from the market, isn't it? So delivery boys will be handling with the customers. Customers will give the order to delivery boys. Delivery boys will go back to kitchen and he will place the order. The cook in the kitchen will prepare the food. Delivery boy does not want to deal with that, does not want to get interfered with that, isn't it? So the entire management becomes easier, isn't it? Similarly, the unit, some people will be there for purchasing raw materials from the market. They'll be dealing only with that functionality. They will go to market every day, purchase the raw materials, come back, deliver it to the kitchen. That's the only thing that they will do. They don't have to bother about anything else. So how easier it is. The same thing can be applied to our programming also. So that's what mentioned in the slide. Some programs might have thousands or millions of lines. See, when we are doing a program, like a program to check whether a given number is prime or not, that program does not contain much lines of code. But when we develop a product, say if you are developing a game, that will contain thousands and thousands of lines of code. In such situations, if you are going to write all these lines of code into a single, say, main function, the case of C programming language, the entire main function will become too lengthy. It will be very difficult for us to read and understand that program. So in such cases, to manage such programs, it becomes quite difficult, as there might be too many of syntax errors. It's possible when we write some lines of code, there can be some syntax errors. So if you are including all the lines of code into a single main function, it becomes really difficult for us to identify where is the error and to correct it. So in such situations, we have to make use of this approach named as modular programming. I hope it's clear to you the importance of, or the need of modular programming, or what does that mean. Okay, so that is the need of a modular programming. Now, what's a module actually? Okay, we said in one of the previous slide, a module will be standing as a separate software component. So again, take the example of our hotel. So now we are dividing. We are saying that our hotel manager or hotel owner Rahul decided to employ some other people and divide his burden of work in different units. We have a kitchen unit consisting of cooks, We have a delivery boys unit, we have a account section, we have a unit of people, unit in the sense a group of people or a particularly a person. We have a unit means a group of people. So a group of people to cook the food, group of people to deal with customers, group of people to deal with the finance section, group of people to purchase raw materials from the market. So Rahul decided to divide his burden of work into different units. Okay. So now, what's the functionality, or what is the purpose, or what's the responsibility of cook? The cook deals with only cooking of food, right? Whenever the cook gets an order, he prepares that food, right? By using the proper ingredients, he will cook the food and give it to the delivery boy. That's the only thing the cook is concerned with, right? So the cook will remain as a separate unit. The cook does not have to bother about anything else. Does not have to bother about the bill section. Does not have to bother about the customers. Does not have to bother about the delivery boys, those who take orders. Does not have to bother about that. So the cooking unit it's a separate entity or separate component. Likewise, when we divide a program into sub-programs, so-called modules, each module will work its own work. They'll have to do some specific work. They will not have to bother about the other modules. That is why we are saying that a module will exist as a separate software component, and that's what we are saying here. Each submodule contains something necessary to execute only one aspect of the desired functionality. So in our real world example, suppose we take the cooking unit. Their bothered about, or their specific, or their desired functionality is to cook the food. So they will deal only with that functionality. They will not get involved in the other functionalities. So clear? I hope it's clear to you. Okay. Now, what does this modular programming approach do? Okay. So modular programming approach give importance. Emphasize means they are giving more importance to breaking of large programs into small problems. So yeah, as we have seen the definition, we are dividing the large programs into small problems. Okay. And why it is done, or what happens if we are doing like that? When we divide large programs small problems, what happens, or what's the advantage of doing that? It increases the maintainability. As I told you, if you suppose in the real world again our real world example, if there is any problem with any of the cooks in the kitchen, the owner Rahul have to deal with only the cooking unit. He does not have to involve, or does not have to get bothered about the delivery boys or bill section, or those who purchase the raw materials from the market. He does not have to bother about all those people. So similarly, if there exist any errors in any one of the module of a program, we have to handle, or we have to take care of that module alone. We don't have to bother about the remaining modules. So the maintainability of the entire program becomes easier. So it increases the maintainability. That is the first point. Second point is readability of the code. So when we divide the entire program into separate sub-programs, okay, our program becomes more structured. So it improves the readability of the code. Okay, it becomes easier for us to understand. Not for us, those who, when we deliver this code to somebody else, it becomes easier for them to go through the code and understand what is happening inside that code. It becomes easy because our program is structured. Take the case of our syllabus itself. We are dividing the syllabus into 5 or 6 modules. When we look at the module, that syllabus page itself, we can see a structure. Module 1, these are the topics in module 1, so and so topics in module 2, so and so topics in module 3, and so on. So when we look at the syllabus itself, we are getting a proper idea of the entire subject, what happens in module 1, what's happening in module 2. So it improves the readability of the code. Okay, that's the second point. Now third point is to make the program handy to make any changes in future or to correct errors. So suppose if you want to say again, take the real world example. Suppose Rahul want to uh, hire a new cook. Does he have to bother about the delivery boys? Does he have to? Is there a need for him to bother about the raw material collection unit? Is there any need for him to bother about the build section? He have to bother only about the kitchen, right, where the cook has to stand and cook. So that's what we mean, that if you want to move, so in the case of programs, if we have a submodule, if you want to modify the submodule, we have to bother only about that submodule. We don't have to bother about all the other modules of the same program. So that's what we mean by it becomes easier to handle the program. Maintainability and handling the program go hand in hand. So both of them means almost the same, but it is considered as a different advantage. Okay, ease of use, reusability, and ease of maintenance. Okay, now how this modular programming is, or this approach is maintained, is applied, or it is applied in C programming language. We know that C is a structured programming language. C is known as a structured programming language. And why we are calling it as a structured programming language? Because to solve a large problem in C, we are dividing that problem into smaller modules. Okay, and we call such modules in C as functions. We all are familiar with, maybe we may not be familiar with the term function. What's the most important function in any C program? It is a main function. As we know, any program in C, if you want to execute it, there must be a main function. Otherwise, that program will not work properly. So main is a function. That means main is a submodule. So we are dividing the entire problem into different modules. Among those modules, one module is main. So far, when we are asked to write a program, we use it to write, or we use it to include all lines of code within the same function named main. From now onwards, we'll be trying to write programs in such a way that we will reduce the number of lines of code inside the main function. We'll split the lines of code that has to be included in the main function, and we will save it as separate functions. So main is actually one example for function. Printf is actually a function. Scanf is another function. So there's all these are predefined functions because they are defined by the people who introduced the C. Right? It's not defined by us. They are not defined by the programmers like us. They are already existing inside the C programming language. So they are predefined functions. Like those functions, we the programmers can also declare and use our own functions. Such functions are known as user-defined functions. We will talk and discuss about those topics in the next video lecture. For the time being, we are stopping with this topic. I hope all of you have understood. Now we will see one picture representation, how it will look when we divide the program into functions. You can see this is one of the figure. We have a main program. We are dividing this main program into different functions. So instead of having one function, there will be more than one functions. So far we used only main function. Instead of that, we'll be having, apart from main function, there will be more functions. So along with the main function, we can include other functions also. Anyway, it's not possible to remove main function, because without main function our program will not execute. Okay, so that's what we mean by this functions. And there's one more picture. So this is how I think this picture is clear to you. As we can see, as we can read here, modular programming is achieved in C language by writing functions. So we can see we have a main function anyway. From this main function, we are dividing it into function 1, function 2, function 3, and so on. It doesn't mean that we can have only 3 functions. We can have any number of functions inside a program. This is only a picture representation. There can be any number of functions. Okay, so that's all for today, or that's all for now. We will discuss about how to write a function. what are the things that you have to take care when we write functions in the next video series. Thank you so much.